And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans, as we do another week of serious hockey talk here on the show. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I am not like massively drug-induced or snotty-nosed as I was the last two shows, because we did one on Monday for the trade deadline. So I'm feeling a lot better. I'm not as drugged up as I was for those two as well. So with that, let's hop right into it and Washington Capitals game breakdowns. We're going to start off going all the way back to the 24th when the Washington Capitals hosted the Buffalo Sabres. For the Sabres, they had Benoit Pouliot with Ryan O'Reilly and Sam Reinhart, Zemgus Girgensons with Evan Rodriguez and Kyle Okposo, Scott Wilson with Johan Larsson and Jason Pominville, Jordan Nolan with Jacob Josephson and Nicholas Baptiste. On defense, they had Nathan Bulio with Rasmus Ristolainen, Marco Scandella with Casey Nelson, and Josh Georges with Victor Antipin, with Robin Lehner in the net. For the Capitals, they had Alex Ovechkin with Nicholas Backstrom and Tom Wilson, Brett Connolly with Evgeny Kuznetsov and TJ Oshie, Chandler Stevenson with Lars Eller, Andre Burakovsky, and Devontae Smith-Pelly with Jay Beagle and Alex Chiasson. On defense, they had Christian Djoos with John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov with Matt Niskanen, and Brooks Orpik with Michael Kempny, and Philip Grubauer in the net. In the first period, 50 seconds into the game, Evgeny Kuznetsov would score his 17th of the season from Brett Connolly and Dmitry Orlov, their 8th and 15th respectively, and then Brett Connolly would be called for hooking at 3:51. At the end of the first, the Capitals would be up 1-0. Shots were 9-8 in favor of Buffalo. Faceoffs were tied at 9 apiece. Hits were 7-6 in favor of the Caps, and on the power play, Buffalo was 0 for 1, and the Caps did not have one. This was a good start to the game for the Capitals. Getting the first goal in the first minute is definitely a confidence booster for the Capitals. The Caps need to press a little harder and create some more scoring chances for themselves against one could say a lackluster Buffalo team. In the second period at 13:20, Andre Burakovsky would score his 8th of the season, assisted by Evgeny Kuznetsov and Matt Niskanen, their 40th and 16th respectively. At the end of the second period, the Caps would be up 2-0. Shots were 20-18 in favor of the Caps. Faceoffs were 20-19 in favor of the Caps. Hits were 18-12 in favor of the Caps. And on the power play, Buffalo is still 0 for 1, and the Capitals did not have one. This was another good period for the Capitals. Andre Burakovsky scored a good goal to extend the Capitals' lead. What the Capitals need to do, though, is to play with a killer instinct and win the game. There is a difference between playing to win and playing not to lose. When you play not to lose, you're going to lose. So going into the third period, 14 seconds in, Sam Reinhart would score his 14th of the season from Casey Nelson. And then Kyle Okposo would be called for goalie interference at 8:43, which on that power play at 10:13, Alex Ovechkin would score his 37th of the season from John Carlson and Evgeny Kuznetsov, their 37th and 41st of the season, respectively. Then Andre Burakovsky would be called for delay of game at 14:16, but then Lars Eller would score at 17:48, his 14th of the season from Matt Niskanen, his 17th, and then at 18:36, Alex Ovechkin would score his 38th of the season from John Carlson and Evgeny Kuznetsov, their 38th and 42nd of the season. Capitals would go on to win this game 5-1. Shots were 37-29 in favor of the Caps. Faceoffs were tied at 31 apiece. Hits were 15-20 in favor of the Caps. And on the power play, Buffalo is 0 for 2, and the Capitals 0 for 1. Excuse me for one moment real quick, please. I'll be explaining why my nose is a little extra runny when I talk about the Stadium Series. Which, as you can tell, we're not at Annapolis, doing the show live from there. That's besides the point. Good game for the Capitals. It was a much needed win for the Washington Capitals, who are, trying to find their spot in the standings when it comes to getting into the playoffs. So definitely a good win. And then for anyone who watched Wednesday night, or Monday night, I apologize. Monday night, when I was doing the trade deadline special, you could see right here was the Washington Capitals Columbus Blue Jackets game. And the Capitals were routed 5-1 in that game. This game was what I called many times during the trade deadline special a dumpster fire. The lineup was pretty much the same for the Washington Capitals, except for the fact that Michael Kempny was with John Carlson and Brooks Orpik was with Christian Djoos, and Braden Holtby was in the net for the Capitals. Good morning, Dixon, and good job. Wait, let me get the thumbs up on this camera. Good job, Dixon. Good job. Dixon, ladies and gentlemen, our behind-the-scenes engineer. For Columbus, they had Artemi Panarin with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Cam Atkinson, Boone Jenner with Alexander Wenberg and Josh Anderson, Sonny Milano with Brandon Dubinsky and Oliver Bjorkstrand, Matt Calvert, Mark Letestu, and Lucas Sedlak. Mark Letestu, who was acquired a day before by the Columbus Blue Jackets before the trade deadline ended. On defense, they have Zach Werenski with Seth Jones, Jack Johnson with Ryan Murray, Ian Cole with David Savard, and Sergei Bobrovsky in the net. Ian Cole also acquired before the trade deadline for Columbus. And it didn't start well for the Capitals on this one. Because at 5:17, Dmitry Orlov would be called for holding. And then at 5:31, Artemi Panarin would score on that power play, his 18th of the season from Seth Jones and Cam Atkinson. Then at 6:54, Ryan Murray would be called for slashing. And 3 seconds into that power play for the Capitals, at 6:57, Alex Ovechkin would score his 39th of the season from John Carlson and TJ Oshie. Then at 7:53, Sonny Milano would score his 9th of the season from Alexander Wenberg and Seth Jones. And then Nicholas Backstrom would be called for hooking at 9:24. Then at 14:32, Columbus will get another goal, this time by Mark Letestu, his first as a Blue Jacket in his second run with the team, assisted by Matt Calvert and Lucas Sedlak. And Brooks Orpik would be called for interference at 17:35, which on that power play at 18:17, Seth Jones would score his 9th of the season from Cam Atkinson and Artemi Panarin. And then at the end of the period, both Tom Wilson and Matt Calvert would receive penalties. Matt Calvert would get a match penalty, and Tom Wilson would get 2 minutes for roughing. At the end of the first period, it would be Columbus 4, Washington 1. Shots were 16-7 in favor of Columbus. Faceoffs 12-10 in favor of Columbus. Hits were 10-7 in favor of Columbus. The Caps were 1-for-1 on the power play, and Columbus was 2-for-3 on their power play. This was a very ugly first period for the Capitals. It was a legitimate dumpster fire for the team. The Capital and honestly, the Caps need to play a better overall game if they hope to mount any type of comeback in this game, which is against a divisional rival. Philip Grubauer would then go in the net for the Capitals. The only thing that would happen in the second period would be Brett Connolly for slashing at 17:08. Shots were 25-15 in favor of Columbus. Faceoffs 19-16 in favor of Columbus. Hits were 15-9 in favor of Columbus. The Caps were 1-for-2. And the Columbus Blue Jackets were 2-for-4. And then in the third period, Josh Anderson would be called for cross-checking at 15:39. And then at 17:18, Cam Atkinson would score a short-handed empty net goal, which would be unassisted. So Columbus would go on to win 5-1. I'm not even going to go over stats for that game. That was just bad. But there would be redemption for the Washington Capitals, who would play against the Ottawa Senators the very next night on Tuesday at home at the Capital One Arena. For Ottawa, their lineup was Mike Hoffman, Matt Duchene, and Magnus Pajjarvi. Bobby Ryan with Jean-Gabriel Pageau and Mark Stone. Ryan Dzingel with Zach Smith and Marian Gaborik. Max McCormick with Jim O'Brien and Tom Pyatt. On defense, Frederick Claesson with Erik Karlsson. Thomas Chabot with Cody Ceci. Mark Borowiecki with Ben Harper. And Mike Condon in the net for the Senators. For the Capitals, they did a couple of changes to their lines. On the left wing side, second line with Kuznetsov and Oshie was Jacob Vrana. mistake in my eyes. Third line would become Brett Connolly with Lars Eller and Andre Burakovsky, and Chandler Stevenson with Jay Beagle and Devontae Smith-Pelly, meaning Alex Chiasson would be out of the lineup. And then on defense, you have Michael Kemeny with John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov with Matt Niskanen, and Brooks Orpik with Jacob Jarabek, with Philip Grubauer getting the start in net. And then in the first period, 2 minutes, 57 seconds in, Tom Wilson and Mark Borowiecki both got 5-minute majors for fighting. I think this was, despite what our good friend Shaggy would say, and unfortunately he's not able to live tweet today because he has to work. I disagree with what he says. I think this was the right thing for Tom Wilson to do. You're in the second game of a back-to-back. You just got blown out in the first game of the back-to-back, and you need to create a spark. And that's what he did. And at 5'11", Max McCormick would be called for slashing. Then at 13:04, Matt Niskanen would be called for interference. But at 15:16, Evgeny Kuznetsov would score his 18th of the season from TJ Oshie and Matt Niskanen for 23rd and 18th, respectively. Then, at the end of the first period, the Capitals would be up 1-0. Shots were 12-10 in favor of Ottawa. Faceoffs were 14-11 in favor of Ottawa. Hits were 7-5 in favor of Ottawa, and both teams were 0-1 on the power play. Analysis for this was that this was a good period for the Capitals. Tom Wilson with the early fight to give the Caps a spark, and Evgeny Kuznetsov with a late goal to give the Caps the lead. The Caps need to keep playing hard and continue playing motivated hockey, which they should be doing right now, being how they don't have a guaranteed spot in the playoffs. You want to be guaranteed to be in the playoffs, you need to play inspired hockey and motivated hockey. And then in the second period, 43 seconds in, Tom Wilson would score his 11th of the season from Nicholas Backstrom. Again, gets the fight in the beginning of the game, give the Caps a spark. Next thing he does, he scores a goal in the first minute of the second period to continue that good game for him. And then Michael Kemeny would be called for holding at 4:22. Then Brooks Orpik would be called for tripping at 4:51. However, on that power play at 6:25, Mike Hoffman would score his 18th of the season from Erik Karlsson and Mike Condon. And then Tom Wilson would be called for roughing at 15:57, and TJ Oshie would be called for tripping at 17:08. However, the Caps would get out of that mess there, and at 19:48, Evgeny Kuznetsov would score his 19th of the season and second of the game from Matt Niskanen, who was his 19th assist of the season. Caps would be up 3-1. Shots were 20-15 in favor of Ottawa. Faceoffs were 24-18 in favor of the Caps. Hits were 15-14 in favor of Ottawa. And Ottawa was a 1-for-5 on the power play, and the Capitals an 0-for-1. This was a very interesting period for the Caps. They started and ended the period with goals, but in between was penalty galore. The Capitals need to stay out of the penalty box and play a hard and smart final 20 minutes. 3:14 into the period, Erik Karlsson would score his 6th of the season from Frederick Claesson and Mark Stone. Then at 4:20, Zach Smith would be called for interference, and then 8:47, Matt Niskanen would be called for holding, and at 11:03, Brooks Orpik would be called for high sticking. However, the Caps would get through that as well. The Capitals would win 3-2. Shots were 30-22 in favor of Ottawa. Faceoffs were 36-24 in favor of the Caps. Hits were 20 apiece. And power play, the Ottawa Senators were 1-for-7, and the Capitals were 0-for-2 on the power play. So, good game for the Capitals. They got the win. They bounced back. But at the same time, they almost shot themselves in the foot one too many times in that game, especially with all the penalties that they took. All right. And so with that, we move from Washington Capitals to National Women's Hockey League talk. Starting off with the first game of the weekend, which was the Boston Pride being hosted by the Connecticut Whale, which was at Warrior Ice Arena. Somehow the Connecticut Whale is the home team at a Boston Arena. All right, I'll take that. And they don't have the scoring summary. But the Boston Pride ended up defeating the Connecticut Whale in a tough matchup where they won 3-0. The box score is not up, but I can tell you right now that for the Boston Pride, Sydney Daniels had a goal and 2 assists for 3 points. Emily Field had 2 goals. Jillian Dempsey had 2 assists, and Dana Trevino and Alyssa Gagliardi both had an assist each for Boston. And Brittany Ott had a perfect game where she stopped all 25 shots that she faced that game, and Sydney Rossman stopped 23 of the 26 that she faced. And then in your next matchup, you had the Buffalo Beauts taking on the Metropolitan Riveters. Okay, we do have a score sheet here. All right, cool. So in the first period for the Metropolitan Riveters, Rebecca Morris would score even strength, assisted by Erica Lawler and Bray Ketchum. Then on the power play, Kelsey Kolzer would score for the Riveters, assisted by Kira Dostal and Alexa Grushko. Then in the second period, while even strength, Jess Jones would score for the Buffalo Beauts, assisted by Corinne Bowie. And then the Beauts in the third period would explode for 3 goals. First by Courtney Kanichika, assisted by Haley Scamora and Sarah Crisorso. And then Maddie Elia on the power play from Courtney Kanichika and Taylor Corsi. And then Haley Scamora, even strength, assisted by Maddie Elia. And then for the Riveters, they would get 1 more goal on the power play by Rebecca Russo, assisted by Kelsey Kolzer and Kira Dostal. The Buffalo Beauts would go on to win this game 4-3, continue their undefeated streak since being bought by the Pegula family and becoming part of the Pegula sports family, which also includes, obviously, the Buffalo Sabres. And then there's also some breaking news that took place in the NWHL. First off, Brown's leading goal scorer has signed with the Connecticut Whales. Sam Donovan, who was the 5th overall selection in the 2017 NWHL draft, has been signed by the Connecticut Whale for the remainder of the NWHL season. The leading scorer this season for Brown University, Donovan will practice with the Whale this week and is eligible to make her NWHL debut in the team's next game, which will be tonight in Boston at 7:30 p.m. Donovan, a 5'2" forward out of Minnesota who is a finalist for the state's Miss Hockey Award in 2014, played at Brown for 4 seasons between 2014 and 18, and was had 36 goals, 32 assists, and 68 points in 116 games. This season, she was named Honorable Mention All-Ivy League. At the school, her studies were concentrated on business, entrepreneurship, and organizations. Then you had the NWHL Player of the Week announced, which was actually a tie. Original NWHL players Emily Field of the Boston Pride and Courtney Kanichika of the Buffalo Beauts had been named co-recipients of the NWHL Player of the Week award. On Sunday, Field scored 2 goals in Boston's 3-0 victory over the Whale, while Kanichika had a goal and an assist in Buffalo's stunning come-from-behind 4-3 win on the road against the Riveters. For the season, Field has 5 goals and 5 assists in 14 games prior to joining the NWHL for its inaugural season. The 5'6" forward graduated from Boston College in 2015, named captain as a senior. Field was 52 goals, 86 assists for 138 points in 149 games played over 4 years at BC. She was also a member of Team USA that won gold at the 2011 IIHF World Women Under-18 Championship in Stockholm. Kanichika, in her 3rd season in Buffalo after 4 years at RIT, leads the Beauts in scoring this season with 4 goals and 10 assists for 14 points in 13 games. She plays on a masterful line in Buffalo with Haley Scamora and Maddie Elia. In 129 games over 4 seasons at RIT, an all-time record at the school, Kanichika has 54 goals and 82 assists for 136 points. And then the other big major news is that Mallory Salotis, the outstanding defender from Yale, who was the 8th overall selection of the Pride in the 2017 NWHL draft, has signed with the Boston Pride for the remainder of the NWHL season. Salotis is expected to make her NWHL debut on tonight in Boston against Connecticut. As a senior this season at Yale, Salotis was named first-team All-Ivy League and was the leading scorer among Ivy defenders with 4 goals and adding 20 assists for 24 points in 31 games. a Massachusetts native, she was also a USA Hockey National Development Camp participant in 2010, 11, and 13, and developed as a player in the Assabet Valley program and at a Nobles and Greeno school. Let's see, and that's it for that. And then coming up tonight at 7:30 p.m., you have the Connecticut Whale at the Boston Pride, and tomorrow at 3 p.m., you have the Buffalo Beauts taking on the Metropolitan Riveters. In the standings right now, you have the Metropolitan Riveters in first place with a 12-2-0 record with 24 points. And you have the Buffalo Beauts, who are actually catching up to the Metropolitan Riveters. They are 10-4-0 with 20 points. So tonight could actually, or tomorrow, I believe, or afternoon, could actually be a role reversal. You know, if Buffalo beats Metropolitan, now it's only 2 points in between the two teams. So Buffalo is definitely getting on the Riveters' heels now in regards to the first place spot in the NWHL. And then the Boston Pride are 3-7-4 with 10 points, and the Connecticut Whale are 3-9-2 with 8 points. Those two teams will be facing off again tonight from Warrior Ice Arena in Boston at 7:30 p.m. So Connecticut has a chance to get themselves back into it for third place again, but as we've heard Anya on the show say before, and Sophia Agostinelli say on the show before, it doesn't matter where they place in the standings. Every team makes the playoffs, so they're going to be focused more on the playoffs. But me, I like to know who I always am going to be facing going into the playoffs because I want to be able to strategize to go up against them. And just to throw this out there, ladies and gentlemen, next weekend will be the last weekend of the NWHL regular season. So March 10th, Saturday at 7 p.m., you got the Buffalo Beauts at the Connecticut Whale, and then at 7:30 p.m., the Metropolitan Riveters at the Boston Pride at Warrior Ice Arena. So those will be the last two games of the regular season. Then they go into the playoffs, which will start on March 17th, which will be, that game will be in Buffalo, and March 18th, that game will be in New Jersey against the Riveters. So we will see these last 4 games that are being played in the National Women's Hockey League are going to be very crucial games in the National Women's Hockey League because it will determine who will place where and who they could be facing come the first round of these playoffs for these semifinals that will be taking place in 2 weeks. So definitely big things going on in the NWHL right now. Regular season's almost over. You're in the second to last week, so definitely catch them out. They always have a game live on Twitter, so go to the at NWHL for more information on that on Twitter, and go to nwhl.zone for more information on the NWHL as a whole as well. And then, ladies and gentlemen, to catch my breath for a moment, it is now time for NHL News and Notes. Had to place on it so I can have a reason to drink my orange juice. So, getting all the way down into the NHL News and Notes. Going to the 24th of February, Taylor Hall has extended his point streak as the Devils rally for a win. They're trailing 1-0 in the third period. Hall assisted on a pair of Kyle Palmieri goals to rally the Devils to victory and extend his point streak to 14 games. Hall, who began his 14-game point streak upon his return from a 3-game absence on January 30th, has collected at least 1 point in 21 consecutive appearances dating to January 2nd of this year. Drinking orange juice was a bad idea. And then, I have a trash can there and a recycling bin over there. Welcome to my life. Nolan Patrick scored the game winner, his 4th consecutive outing with a goal to help the Flyers extend their overall point streak to 11 contests, including 5 consecutive wins. This marks the first time since 2005-2006 that Philadelphia has posted a point streak of at least 11 games. Mitch Marner had a goal and 3 assists and factored on all 4 of Toronto's goals, including an assist on the go-ahead marker with 1:23 remaining in regulation, to lead the Maple Leafs past the Boston Bruins and their 9th straight victory at Air Canada Centre. Patrick Laine scored twice to extend his goal streak to 5 games and eclipsed 30 goals for the second time in as many NHL seasons, which he's only in his 2nd season, so having it worded like that makes absolutely no sense, being how he's only been in the season 2 seasons. And helped the Jets stretch their road point streak to 5 contests. Right, we're going to move on. And then for the 25th, the trade market heated up ahead of the 2018 NHL trade deadline. Some of the big trades that happened on the 25th was the Boston Bruins acquiring forward Rick Nash from the New York Rangers in exchange for forwards Ryan Spooner and Matt Bolesky, defenseman Ryan Lindgren, and Boston's first-round pick and 7th-round pick in this year's draft. Nash and Spooner had debuted for their new clubs. Spooner had 2 assists. Nash had none in his debut. The Maple Leafs acquired forwards Tomas Plekanec and Kyle Bond from the Canadiens in exchange for defenseman Renat Velev and forward Kirby Reichel and a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft. And of course, there were many, many more other drafts or trades that were made as well. 4 different players scored, and Pekka Rinne turned aside all 27 shots he faced to power the Nashville Predators to their 4th straight win and backed into sole possession of first place in the Central Division. Rinne, who earned the 300th win of his NHL career on Thursday, posted his 6th shutout of the season and trails only Andrei Vasilevsky for most in this season. He sits 1 shutout shy of matching his career high with the Predators' single-season record of 7, set in 2008-2009 and matched in 2009-10. With the win Saturday, Predators general manager David Poile moved within 1 victory of tying Glenn Sather for the most regular season victories by a GM in league history. And then the 3 stars of the week were announced. Your 3rd star was Ryan Getzlaf, center of the Anaheim Ducks. Getzlaf placed 2nd in the NHL with 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points, and 4 outings as the Ducks earned 5 of a possible 8 standing points to maintain 3rd place in the Pacific Division. He posted 1 assist in the 2-0 victory against the Vegas Golden Knights, February 19th, followed by a 2-point performance in a 2-0 win over the Dallas Stars on February 21st. After being held off the score sheet in a 2-0 loss to the Arizona Coyotes on the 24th, Getzlaf bounced back with a 4-point night in a 6-5 shootout loss to the Edmonton Oilers on the 25th. Your 2nd star was Pekka Rinne, goalie of the Nashville Predators. Rinne went with a 3.0 record with a 1.0 goals against average and a .970 save percentage with 1 shutout to lift the Predators back atop the Central Division standings. He made 36 saves in a 5-2 triumph over the Ottawa Senators. Rinne then turned aside 33 shots in a 7-1 victory against the San Jose Sharks. And he closed the week by making 27 saves for his 49th career shutout in a 4-0 triumph over the St. Louis Blues. And the 1st star was Eric Staal, center of the Minnesota Wild. Staal paced the NHL with 4 goals, 3 assists for 7 points in 4 games to propel the Wild to a perfect week and into 3rd place in the Central Division. He collected 1 assist in a 5-3 win over the New York Islanders, followed by 1 goal in a 4-2 victory against the New Jersey Devils, and Staal then registered 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, his 13th career 4-point performance and first since March 8, 2015, when he was still with Carolina, in a 4-1 triumph over the New York Rangers. So, definitely congratulations to those men. And then on the 26th, we have kind of like a trade deadline recap. You had the Tampa Bay Lightning acquiring defenseman Ryan McDonagh and forward JT Miller from the Rangers in exchange for forward Vladislav Namestnikov, defenseman Libor Hajek, and forward Brett Howden. A 2018 first-round pick and a conditional second-round pick in 2019. The Jets acquired Paul Stastny from the Blues in exchange for a 2018 first-round pick and forward Eric Foley. The Golden Knights acquired forward Tomas Tatar from the Red Wings in exchange for a 2018 first-round pick and 2019 second-round pick and a 2021 third-round pick. The Sharks acquired Evander Kane from the Sabres in exchange for forward Daniel O'Regan, a conditional 2019 first-round pick, and a conditional 2019 fourth-round pick. The Predators acquired forward Ryan Hartman, a 2018 fifth-round pick from the Blackhawks in exchange for forward Victor Edgesell, a 2018 first-round pick, and a 2018 fourth-round pick. And then the Devils acquired Patrick Maroon from the Oilers in exchange for forward J.D. Dudek and a 2019 third-round pick. And the Blue Jackets acquired Thomas Vanek from the Canucks in exchange for forwards Tyler Mott and UC Jokinen. And of course, there were many other trades that went down as well. Peter Mrazek turned aside all 28 shots he faced, and Sean Couturier scored the decisive maker in the shootout as the Flyers picked up their sixth consecutive victory to leapfrog the Capitals in the first place in the Metropolitan Division. Philadelphia improved to 10-0-2 since February 3rd, their longest point streak since a 12-game run from 2003-04. Mrazek, who was acquired by Philadelphia on February 19th, improved to 3-0-0 with the Flyers with a 1.30 goals against average, .947 save percentage, and one shutout to become just the ninth goalie to win each of his first three appearances with the club, and first since Ilya Bryzgalov in 2011-12. Mrazek is the only goaltender in franchise history to accomplish this feat following a mid-season trade. And ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, and actually I'm going to go over this. Seth Jones and Cam Atkinson each collected a goal and 2 assists for 3 points as Columbus scored 4 goals in the first period en route to their third win in 4 contests. Blue Jackets increased their lead to 4 points over the Islanders for the final wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. And after the trade deadline and the Capitals' dumpster fire of a game against Columbus and Philadelphia winning that game, the standings look as such. Philadelphia has 78 points, Washington has 77, Pittsburgh has 76, New Jersey has 72, Columbus has 69, the Islanders has 65. Carolina and the Rangers are probably out of it now at this point. But, if you look at how the standings are in the Metro, you got Philly with, it's essentially just 1 point amongst each other. With the Flyers, the Caps, and the Penguins. So, the Caps really want to be in the playoffs. They got to start getting more serious. I've been saying that for a while now. Let's see here. For the 27th, Eric Stahl had 3 goals, 2 assists, and 5 points, and Jason Zucker had a goal and 4 assists for 5 points, as the Wild equaled a franchise record for most goals in a game and extended their win streak to a season-high 5 contests. Minnesota sits third in the Central Division, 4 points behind Winnipeg for second place. Stahl scored his 14th career hat-trick, trailing only Washington's Alex Ovechkin for the most among active NHL players. His 5 points were one shy of a single-game career high, a mark set on March 7, 2009. Roman Josi assisted on 5 of Nashville's 6 goals to help the Predators erase a 5-3 deficit in the third period and extend their win streak to 5 games. Nashville moved ahead of Vegas for the first place in the Western Conference and have a game in hand on the Vegas Golden Knights. Josi matched franchise records for most assists and points in a game and extended his assist point streak to 5 contests. Only 2 other defensemen have recorded 5 points in a game this season, Ryan Pollock of the Islanders and Tyson Barrie of Colorado. And then Nashville's David Poile earned his 1,319th career regular season win to move into a tie with Glenn Saver for the most by a general manager in NHL history. And then Tommy Wingles had a goal and an assist, and Rick Nash had a goal, who happened to be who were acquired by Boston ahead of Monday's trade deadline. Each found the score sheet to help the Bruins earn an overtime win over the Hurricanes. Boston sits third in the Atlantic Division, 1 point behind Toronto for second place. Okay. And then it was announced on the 28th that the Vancouver Canucks are to host the 2019 NHL Draft. The Vancouver Canucks will host the 2019 NHL Draft at Rogers Arena. The National Hockey League Canucks in the city of Vancouver announced. The 2019 NHL Draft will help the Canucks launch their 50th season in the NHL in 2019-20, which will include other special events to commemorate their historic milestone. Vancouver will also play host to the 2019 IIHF World Junior Hockey Championships, where some of the top draft-eligible prospects will get a chance to play in Rogers Arena, where they hope to hear their name called on stage in June of 2019. The 2019 NHL Draft will be held over 2 days. Friday, June 21st will be the first round, and Saturday, June 22nd will be rounds 2 through 7, which is actually a lot earlier than the other drafts have been. So I actually like the sound of that. NHL club executives, scouts, and coaches will be present on the NHL draft floor, while thousands of fans and hundreds of media are expected to attend. And 2019 will mark the third time the Canucks in the city of Vancouver will host the NHL draft, previously hosting the 1990 and 2006 drafts. So that's pretty cool there. Not a lot to talk about there. And then, ladies and gentlemen, on March 1st, Yanni Gourde was announced the Rookie of the Month for the month of February. He led all rookies with 5 goals, 11 assists, and 16 points in 14 games. Gourde edged New York Islanders center Matthew Barzal, who had 2 goals, 14 assists, and 16 points in 12 games. And Winnipeg Jets left winger Kyle Connor, who had 6 goals, 5 assists for 11 points in 12 games. New Jersey Devils center Nico Hischier, who had 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points in 14 games. And Canucks right winger Brock Besser, who had 5 goals, 5 assists for 10 points in 13 games for the honor. Gourde registered at least 1 point in 12 of his 14 February appearances, highlighted by a 7-game streak to open the month. He also led all rookies with 3 power play goals, 6 power play points, and a +8 rating. And for the month of February, the 3 stars were announced. The 3rd star, Riley Smith, right winger of the Vegas Golden Knights. Smith ranked 4th in the NHL with 8 goals, 12 assists, and 20 points in 14 games, as the Golden Knights went 8-5-1 in the month of February to maintain first place in the Pacific Division. 2nd star was Evgeny Malkin, center of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Malkin paced 3rd in the NHL in both goals and points to power the Penguins to a 8-3-1 February. He collected also at least 1 point in 10 of his 12 contests. And the 1st star was Eric Staal, center of the Minnesota Wild. Staal paced the NHL with 13 goals, 8 assists for 21 points in 13 games to propel the Wild to a 9-2-2 February and into 3rd place in the Central Division. He registered at least 1 point in 11 of his 13 appearances, including a pair of 5-game streaks. Staal posted 4 multi-point performances as well. And on March 1st, David Poile became the winningest general manager in NHL history. Nashville's David Poile recorded his 1,320th career victory to surpass Glenn Sather for the most regular season wins by a general manager in NHL history. He owns a record of 726, 574, and 205 in 1,505 games with the Predators, and posted a record of 594, 454, 192, and 1,180 games with the Washington Capitals from 1982-83 through 1996-97. Poile took his first role as NHL general manager with the Washington Capitals on August 30th, 1982, leading Washington, who at that point had never clinched a playoff berth, to 14 consecutive playoff appearances, beginning with his first campaign. On July 9th, 1997, the expansion Predators hired Poile as the first and still only general manager in franchise history. At the 1998 NHL Draft, Poile traded up to select David Legwand at number 2 with the club's first ever draft pick. Legwand remains the Predators' all-time leader in goals, assists, points, and games played. Poile, who has employed only 5 coaches during nearly 36 years as a general manager, built his rosters with bold trades and calculated draft selections, including late-round steals. Peter Bondra, 8th round, 156 overall in 1990. Andrew Brunette, 7th round, 174th overall in 1993. Pekka Rinne, 8th round, 258th overall in 2004, and Patrick Hornquist, 7th round, 230th overall in 2005. And actually, I believe that is a error on that, because if I remember right, Peter Bono was actually a 9th round pick, not an 8th round pick. Hey, Scott. Yeah, we hate you about the Stadium Series, but keep watching, because I'm going to be talking about that as soon as I get done with NHL news and notes. Save those notes for here. And yesterday, the NHL and the Dallas Stars revealed the 2018 NHL Draft logo, and surprise, surprise, the text and everything for the draft itself is normal, but it's on the state of Texas, as we all predicted it probably would have been. So, the 2018 NHL Draft logo builds upon the strong sense of Texas state pride as the Stars celebrate their 25th anniversary this season, marking the first 25 years of NHL hockey in Texas. The 2018 event will mark the first time the Stars in the city of Dallas will host the NHL Draft. So there you go for that. And the 2018 Olympic champion U.S. women's ice hockey team will sign autographs at the NHL store in New York City and Manhattan on Monday, March 5th from 2:30 to 3:30. Cool. But I got a serious question. Why are you scheduling all these autograph signings when people are supposed to be at work? You know, I know, Scott, you actually did the autograph signing yesterday with select members of the Olympic team yesterday. But again, it was during work hours, and I think that was piss poor planning by the Capitals on that one. So, yeah. And then a little wind advisory. And this is where I wanted to talk about stadium. Actually, no, hold on. I want to go back to that. Okay, so I'm going to do NHL news and notes from yesterday, and then I'm going to go into the Stadium Series. So, following a 50-save performance in his last outing, which was February 28th at Vancouver, Henrik Lundqvist made 50 saves again. It doesn't matter. They scheduled it before everything got shut down due to high winds, which honestly nothing should have been shut down yesterday. So it was still a kibosh of a scheduling when they should have scheduled it for much later in the day. Like when people were out of work, not go, well, we think that people will be out of work because of wind, which, by the way, that was pathetic yesterday that schools and the government were closed due to wind. But that's besides the point. Let me get back to news and notes so I can go into the Stadium Series stuff. Lundqvist made 50 saves again to backstop the Rangers to their second straight win on the heels of a 7-game slide. Lundqvist, who celebrated his 36th birthday yesterday, became the third goaltender to mark at least 50 saves in consecutive appearances. Lundqvist, however, is the only goaltender to earn wins in each game. Yeah, we'll talk about that later, Scott. And then Nathan MacKinnon had 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points, factored on 5 of Colorado's 7 goals to power the Avalanche to a 13-1-0 record in the last 14 home games. Colorado was 1 point back of Anaheim for the final wildcard spot in the Western Conference. And Patrick Laine scored twice to extend his point streak to 7 games and help the Jets improve the 6-2-0 in their last 8 contests. Winnipeg is second in the Central Division, 6 points back of Nashville for first place. And Tuva Teravainen scored the go-ahead goal at 9:37 of the third period as the Hurricanes picked up their second straight win on the heels of a 6-game slide. Carolina moved past Columbus for the final wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. And then Devils forward Taylor Hall scored to extend his point streak to 17 games, marking his 24th consecutive appearance with a point dating back to January 2nd. Hall, who began his 17-game point streak upon his return from a 3-game absence on January 30th, is the first player in Devils franchise history to record at least 1 point in 17 consecutive games. His point streak is the longest in the NHL this season. Hall's stretch of 24 consecutive appearances with at least 1 point also is the longest such run in Devils franchise history. He is just the 8th different player in the last 30 years to record at least 1 point in 24 or more consecutive appearances. Now I can go into the Stadium Series stuff. Because actually, this is perfect. I got 15 minutes to talk about the Stadium Series. So, real quick, okay, yes, and that sucks that the school lost power, but one school loses power, but all the other schools don't, does not should not determine all the schools having to shut down. That one school probably then should have been shut down for safety, but all the other schools still should have gone on time as it should have. The federal government, well, we know how the federal government is right now, so they shut themselves down for no reason, apparently. The MARC train, I don't care. I don't care anymore. So, the winds were not actually as bad as everyone put it out to be. It came in swoops. That was it. You know, I had to go to work still yesterday. So, you know, people need to grow a pair. but yeah, no, but the Capitals announced that they're going to be having the women's team at Kettler before things got shut down for the wind. So when you look at that, you go, okay, they scheduled it for, what was it, 3 to 5 or something like that. I don't have the full thing in front of me. Was it, what, 3 to 5? So it was 3 to 5, if I'm right. You know, I work 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'm not taking off work to go meet people. You know, and before the wind closed down school and government, you know, and the MARC train, which meant I had to drive to work yesterday, which I wasn't too happy about because the train could have stayed on the tracks. 4 to 5? Okay, yeah, 4 to 5. I have to be at work from 4 to 5. And if I left work early, I wouldn't. By the time I got there, they would have ended the damn thing. So, you know, all the other people who actually did go to work, and a lot of other people did go to work yesterday, they were never going to be able to get to meet them. So again, this is one of those things where the Capitals, like the fan arena, screwed the pooch on. You know, just like with the NHL putting the women's Olympic team at the NHL store in New York City during school hours and work hours. Why are you going to... You should never pull your kids out of school to do that type of stuff, and you should never have to be calling out of work to do that type of stuff. The only time I would approve it is if, A, it's a weekend, and B, it's the Stanley Cup parade. Sorry, but that's how it is. The Stadium Series game is being played on a Saturday. Today's the day you do the autograph signing with all the players, so you can have everybody have an opportunity to do it and not, you know, screw others over who cannot attend the thing because they actually have to go to work. This is the second time the Capitals have kiboshed something, or the league has kiboshed something like this, and it's quite irritating that they've done that. Yeah, and that's the thing, you know. Yeah, because Scott, I mean, the reason you got to go was because, you know, the schools got shut down. You know, so you ended up getting out of work yesterday. So yeah, you're right. You did get lucky, and you had every right to not anticipate being able to go to that. So the scheduling of all of this is so construed to, you know, it's like, it's pretty much saying go to work and make sure you make the money that you need so you can pay your bills, or go do this autograph signing. Yeah, and what Dixon also just said, the fact that the Capitals have been doing Fan Fest on Tuesday afternoons during the summer. Put it back on a Saturday where people can actually go to the damn thing. You know? It's like, it's so bewildering why the scheduling of this stuff has been so screwed up. But anyways, let's go over some notes going into the Stadium Series game tonight. The Capitals host the Maple Leafs tonight at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium in Annapolis, Maryland, as it marks the first ever outdoor game to be played at a service academy. For this game will be on NBC here in the States and on Hockey Night in Canada up in Canada. I so hope that they do what they did with the NHL 100 and they give us the Hockey Night in Canada feed, because that is the better feed. The The Capitals and Maple Leafs faced off in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time in 2017, producing a memorable first-round series won by Washington in 6 games. 5 of the 6 contests required overtime, matching an NHL single series postseason record. This marks the third and final meeting between the Capitals and Maple Leafs for this season. Okay, that's irrelevant. Capitals forward Alex Ovechkin enters the contest 3 goals shy, becoming the 20th player in NHL history to reach 600 career goals and the 4th to do so in less than 1,000 games. The Capitals and Maple Leafs are both undefeated in 2 previous outdoor game appearances. Washington earned a 3-1 victory versus Pittsburgh in the 2011 NHL Winter Classic, and a 3-2 win versus Chicago in the 2015 NHL Winter Classic, which I got to be at that one, along with Dixon. And Scott has been to both outdoor games for the Capitals and now be going to his third. And Toronto, meanwhile, has picked up a pair of victories versus Detroit, both in extra time, a 3-2 shootout win in the 2014 Bridgestone NHL Winter Classic, and a 5-4 overtime win in the 2017 NHL Centennial Classic. And an interesting did you know, Capitals defenseman Jacob Jerabek and Maple Leafs forward Thomas Plekanec, who each played with the Canadiens in December's 2017 NHL 100 Classic in Ottawa, can become the first players in NHL history to participate in outdoor games with multiple teams in the same season. And then I'm actually going to go over one more. Despite high winds hitting the Annapolis area today, and this was reported yesterday, the National Hockey League continues preparations for tomorrow's 2018 Coors Light NHL Stadium Series between the Washington Capitals and Toronto Maple Leafs. The league is monitoring the conditions, and as of now, the game is still on as originally scheduled for 8 p.m. on Saturday, March 3rd at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. The NHL will issue a further update by 1:30 p.m. on Saturday. Now, I mentioned my nose is a little extra runny. As you can tell, I have my breakfast right here. I did this thing called walking outdoors to the Dutch market to take up my breakfast. It's not that bad out. I'm in Germantown, Maryland. I'm about 45 minutes to an hour away from Annapolis. It's really not that bad out there. I see some wind, but I don't see, massive wind gusts. When I was walking to the Dutch market and back here before I did the show, the wind was not a major factor on me doing my walk. I didn't feel like I was going to get blown away by the wind. Yesterday, yes, there were times. Yeah, I love me some Dutch market too, Scott. That's why I had to go get it. And this orange juice, Scott, is from the Dutch market too, because I've been trying to get this crap out of my system at the same time. But I think that's making me worse, so I probably shouldn't do that again. Hey, just stick to the cranberry juice and ginger ale. But, yesterday, the wind was actually not that bad throughout most of the day. You just had times through the day, depending on how the storm was spinning, that you got those gusts. Those gusts felt a little bit more powerful in the afternoon when I was driving home from work, because when I was driving... Well, then get over here and forget the... No, wait, you're going to the Stadium Series. Never mind. There's next weekend, Scott. You can do it next weekend. Go get your pretzel next weekend. But, but the thing is, like, when I was driving to work, the wind wasn't really that much of a factor going on into work. I mean, it was windy, but it wasn't that bad. Driving to home from work, I felt a lot more of the power of the wind because it was where it was in that part of the storm. The majority of the storm has passed us because it's now up more north. This game is going to go on at 8 p.m. I highly doubt that they'll delay the game for any reason whatsoever. The game will be fine. I'm going to be angry during the duration of the game because I won't be there. Dixon will be angry for the duration of the game because he won't be there. Because our press credentials are denied and we can't afford to buy tickets to the game. And I found out, and Scott, actually, say this in the chat feed real quick for me, but how much is parking? Because I heard that you apparently had to pay for parking for this game. So, I want to know how much you had to pay for parking. And if you don't know the answer to that right now, say so after, because... Yeah, Dixon, you're saying you think you saw it was $20 prepay. I think when I got the press thing... Oh, no, and Scott had to pay $30. So it's like... Yeah, I mean, this would definitely be one of those moments where you just carpool to the game with your buddies, because it's like, why not? So... Oh, I just got a new email. Let me get out of this real quick. Oh, wow. We just got pregame notes, but is it the same stuff that we just did? Well, here's the thing. If the three of us went to that game together, we all paid $10 towards the parking. Instead of poor Scott having to pay all $30 out of pocket. So it's known that there will be celebrations of... the Stadium Series will feature special recognitions of the Navy personnel in the U.S. and Canada, celebrations of the gold medal winning U.S. Olympic women's ice hockey team, and U.S. Olympic men's curling teams. The participation of 500 midshipmen in game day festivities and performances by various military musical ensembles, including ambassadors from the U.S. Naval Academy's music department. The homage to the Navy will be on display throughout the game, from the on-field decor to the in-game ceremonies to the more than 500 U.S. Naval Academy midshipmen in attendance. The NHL regulation rink sits atop a Navy-inspired aircraft carrier flight deck complete with model fighter jets. See, that's cool. Yeah, so that's really cool. And I hate you about the Caps alumni thing, Scott. Let's see here. The pregame festivities will be on display throughout the game, from the on-field decor to the in-game ceremonies. Oh yeah, I already read that. The pregame festivities will begin with a procession march onto the field of the U.S. Naval Academy midshipmen, led by the U.S. Naval Academy Drum and Bugle Corps. The midshipmen... Yeah, the alumni game is tomorrow, too. Which is kind of weird that they're doing it tomorrow instead of the day before, but whatever. The midshipmen will take their stations along the rails of the makeshift flight deck in a nod to the ceremonial tradition of the manning of the rails. The visiting Maple Leafs will take the field first, led by the second Canadian mechanized bridge group Pipes and Drums. The host Capitals will be led by members of the U.S. Naval Academy Pipes and Drums. Okay. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so just that right there, the fact that both the Leafs and the Capitals are going to be led by members of their respective naval pipes and drums brigades, that's freaking sweet. See, that I would totally want to be there for. Yeah, you didn't tell me that. We'll talk about that later, though, Scott. I still have a show. I got 2 minutes. I got a minute and a half left of my show, so we'll talk more about that later. So yeah, man, they got... the U.S. Olympics men's curling team will be recognized before the game. During the second intermission, the NHL will celebrate members of the gold medal winning U.S. Olympic women's ice hockey team. You know what I find really frustrating? I'm credentialed for the National Women's Hockey League, and I've interviewed players that were on that Olympic team, and I can't even get credentialed by the NHL to be at this game tonight, to actually talk and interview to these same players that I've had on my show in the past before. Isn't that a little weird and frustrating? I don't know, man. I don't know. But that's enough of my ranting. I got about 45 seconds left. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be watching the game at Dixon's house tonight. Yes, go Street Sharks. I'll be watching the game at Dixon's house tonight. Stay tuned here on Twitch for potential live feed stuff. Stay tuned to the Twitter account at @TXHT_hockey. I will be posting up stuff in regards to what we could be doing for the Stadium Series. We will be trying to do something. And tomorrow at 2 p.m. it is the Street Sharks versus the Slashing Pumpkins in quarterfinals action in the DCHL. Go Street Sharks. If we lose, we have a 5-week break. If we win and then lose in the semifinals, we then have a 3-week break. So there you go. That's how we do it. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. And until next time, which will probably be tonight, we will see you on the ice.